Halito, and welcome to Native Chalk Talk, a podcast by natives for all. Here we're keeping our Native ancestors' stories and history alive, while also sharing with you our Native culture, traditions, and more. I'm Rachel Youngman, a Choctaw originally from Anadarko, Oklahoma. I hope you'll enjoy this journey with me as we learn from our Native American guests. And I hope you'll do me a favor. Feel free to like and share these episodes. I so appreciate it. Yakoki.
16 days to do from Oklahoma to Pittsburgh, around 1,100 miles. They asked me if I would participate in the torch lighting ceremony, which is just like the Olympics. I imagine I shook 100 hands after that talk, and many of them were diabetics. But to me, diabetes is not a stop sign. To me, it was a go sign. That's when I started my life again.
See and share our stories at togetherwe'remore.com.
You're listening to part 5 of this series.
Halito, in March of 2023, I had the pleasure of meeting with the descendants of the brave and powerful Comanche warrior, Quanah Parker. This was a dream come true for me, as I've admired Quanah Parker and his role in history my whole life. Quanah had tough decisions to make on behalf of his people, to fight, and most likely his tribe would be wiped out forever if he did, or to surrender to the U.S. government. Unfortunately, I had technical difficulties during the recording. Part of the recording had video and part did not, and parts of the audio were just terrible. When I discovered this in editing, I was so upset, and I went to several experts in sound who tried to fix the quality for me. Thankfully, one of my past guests, in fact, was able to fix the sound for me, and although it's still pretty rough, it's much better than it was, and I'm truly grateful. So I hope you'll bear with me as I present to you the descendants of Quanah Parker as they share about their ancestor and his contribution to his people in part 5 of this series.
I think back of Quanah. I'm here and at this position because of Quanah. She's here at hers because of Quanah. And she's here 39 years because of Quanah. And they can tell the same stories too, not just in my family. We're close, you know, all of us on the Parker side, the top tier Parkers. We're close.
I love that.
Our dads were really close.
My dad's favorite brother was my dad.
How many siblings were there in that generation?
There were how many brothers? Simmons, Dad, Roy, Elmer, and one. The seemed like
Your dad.
There were 4 or 5 of them.
They danced from the age of 2 way up in age. They were war dancers, both of
This
them.
is her dad, and this is our dad.
Who's this lady?
Best
That's
friend.
on my mother's side. That's our great grandmother. She would take her blanket and little lunch or snacks, and she would spread this blanket under the pecan trees, and she would sit there and sew.
When we get up and we tell about ourselves, I'll say, I'm the oldest of my mother and dad's 5 children, and we got 5 sisters and 5 brothers. And I said, now my sisters will all tell you that they were dad's favorite daughter, but I just want you to know that I was his favorite.
And I can always remember him getting mad at me because we lived in a 4-room house, and our linoleum would almost be like just dirt.
You'd wear it
and
out.
he didn't like it when I'd sweep, and I felt real terrible if he was sitting there watching me because he said my sweeping I would raise up too much dust. My other sister, that was his favorite, she swept perfect.
Oh, of course she did. Somehow the dirt did not come.
Yeah, and you know, we have wonderful stories. Dad drove the school bus and he to the church bus, and my mom, she got up and she made lunch before we left for Sunday school, put in the back of the school bus, and she had our lunch ready. The night before, we all took our baths in that tin tub, you know, and Dad had all of our shoes lined up there, polished, and prepared for church. That's how we are. I tell my kids, you got to lay out your clothes. Not only would we have our clothes ready in our shoes, but we'd have to wash our hair every night, and we'd have them little sponge curlers. So Mom would roll our hair up with newspapers. We went to bed every night. Hey, what about those tin cans? And she'd roll it up, and then twist it. The next morning, we'd have really pretty weenie curls. No brush can hurt my head.
I'd like to talk about Quanah Parker's mother, Cynthia Ann, who, as mentioned, was taken by the Comanche, was named Nadua, and eventually became the wife of Chief Pita Nokoni. So tell us about Nadua.
Well, I'll start off as a mother. Maybe others can chime in. But as a mother, I think of her like I did Quanah. She taught Quanah his kindness, his generosity, his lovingness. She also had a lot to do. Probably his dad probably taught him his fierceness, but I'm sure she had a lot to do with that too. But what I see that she taught him was she really taught him how, to me, to have a foot in both worlds, because she was a white woman and his daddy was a Comanche. So she, I don't know if his daddy would want her teaching him white ways, but I'll bet she did. You know, she taught him what English he knew. That's why he could be a little bit more fluent with the English than the others, because he learned it from his mother.
And it's interesting because she was captured by the Comanche, as many were at the time, by multiple tribes.
Right.
And yet she wanted to stay with the
She wanted to
Comanche.
stay with them.
Yeah, that says a lot.
And when they recaptured her, and took her back to her family in Texas, she was not happy. As a matter of fact, a lot of the stories, kind of the love type stories, will say she willed herself to die. Because then once her daughter died, then she really didn't want to live. So I think she wanted to be Comanche.
I think so too. Quanah was born in 1845. And how many children did Nadua have with the chief?
33.
3 children? Yeah.
Son
Which was Prairie Flower.
and Pickles.
Quanah.
Was Quanah born last? Or where was he in the?
He was first.
He was the first.
Okay.
Anna said, you know, his name means fragrant or what, but she said it was Quaina. Quaina. That's why Anna said that's his name, Quaina. But they now anglicize it towards Quanah, but the meaning of it was fragrant. You might look that up in your dictionary and see if that's so. But that's why she always said Quaina.
Pecos, we talked about, he was born in 1849 and he died at approximately 1862. I couldn't find much about him, but he's listed as dying of smallpox and his body being lost or destroyed. Do you know otherwise or anything more about him?
The only thing I recall, and I don't know if it was him or his dad, but the Antelope Hills was a very popular hunting place for antelope. And it's my understanding that Quanah's dad died there from an old wound. Now that boy, I think, died first. Because
Yeah, he died young.
he was just a young kid, and I really don't know where he did die. But you know, my grandfather Ray, our grandfather Ray, told me the way that. Back in those days, he said, when we had to move so much, we were nomadic people. He said we had to pick up and go in a matter of just time. And he said, but what we did, son, he said, when our people would die back in those days, he said, we do one or two things. We put them in a buffalo robe or deer hide. If there was a tree there, we'd put them in the fork of a tree. He said, then if there wasn't a tree, he said, we put them in a ravine. He said, that's where they put them. And the other thing, which just came to my mind, was he said, when old people, they got where were not able to travel anymore. When they had to move, they would leave that old person, that elderly person in a TB with little provisions, water, and one little food. And that's how the old person was left.
And the elder wanted it that way too.
That's why they wanted it.
They didn't want to hold up the group because lots of times they were running.
That's the way that the elder people, it was their time, and that's how they did that. It was just, it was very unique.
I read that Cynthia Ann read the Bible, and that she did teach Quanah about the scriptures. But at the same time, another grandmother that I had, I asked her if we knew the Appa, or the Appa, our creator, if he knew us. She said, yes. She said, before we had the Bible, there was our ways, our character, our values was inspired to us. And now she said it was, he's a spirit and we have a spirit. So his loving kindness and his character, patience, love, generosity, that was all inspired to us from his spirit to our spirit. So she said that's why we were able to accept the scriptures, because it was already inspired, and it was our the way we live.
The things we did, we were already following kind of scripture. And in connection with that, Dad says, my dad was pretty eloquent when you think about a 10th grader. He said, you know, daughter, he said, Native peoples all around the world know there's a higher deity. You know, we might not have heard of Jesus, might not have heard of God, but they know there's a higher deity. And you know how? All you got to do is look around. Somebody bigger than us created this world. So they knew there was a higher deity. And then when we were told about Jesus, we knew exactly who that was, in line with what you're saying. He knew exactly who that was. He said, it is inherent in man to know that there's a higher deity. That's what Dad said. And I've always assumed that. That's the way it was, yeah.
And that same lady that I was speaking of, she said, how did we know where the fresh water was? How did we know where the buffalo was? How did we know which medicines to use? And how did we know how to construct a teepee?
Yeah.
And then she said it was by the Creator inspiring us. And it could have been through a dream or a sign. She said we looked at signs, and there was different things in nature, you know, that told us and inspired us. How to build a teepee. Right. You know, if you really think about it, a teepee had to be spiritually inspired because it was warm in the winter and cool in the summer, and it was circular, and the wind blows on the plains in the winter, it goes around. And then in the summertime, everybody faced their body to the outside, and they lifted the teepee this high to get air. And so that was their air conditioning, you know, and it was in tanks. But she explained that to me because I asked her, did the Creator know us? And she said, yes. She said, he taught us how to live.
Then I asked Dad, I said, Dad, you know, why did we not just stop like a lot of people do today and have gardens and plant? Why did we, you know, we're nomads, we have Colorado way down there. I said, so why didn't we just stop and plant a garden and have food year round? He said, we didn't have to. I said, what do you mean we didn't have to? Use up all the food there, all the berries, all the yams or potatoes that were underground, what those potatoes were. But anyway, all of that was underground. He said, and we just went on. And when we got back, it was all replenished. God did that for us. He said, we didn't have to stop and garden.
Right.
Better say than that.
Yeah, exactly. No, we have to.
About it. She's right. Yeah. That he provided for us. And we just went on our way, and it was replenished when we got back.
And it was many, many decades of that.
Yeah.
Centuries,
over
right?
And over and over.
It's amazing.
So, I know. It's amazing.
It was such a well-oiled machine to some degree. You know, people survived we live in Oklahoma. We know how cold the wind can be, icy cold in the winter, and how the tornadoes come, and then the heat is just blaring.
And there's stories like this in a lot of tribes across the United States. They all have their unique history, their unique stories, and they're all still based on the fact that we have a God that looks after us.
Oh, I love that.
I do too.
Inspired us how to live.
Right, exactly. Well, I like that Quanah Parker seemed to have gotten a piece of both worlds, and he lived that through the rest of his life. So I think someone was going to say something.
We followed the buffalo too.
Yeah.
And the buffalo provided clothing, you know, shelter. They built the teepees out of buffalo. And the meat.
Buffaloes are amazing.
They are really amazing.
They really are.
They used every part of that buffalo and they butcher it. And I know what eating buffalo is like. It's really healthy. It's not as fat as cattle. You know, it's real lean.
It's lean.
You know, so they dried a lot of buffalo meat, and I even do that. They know exactly how to prepare it, and the women learn how to braid tan the hides and make clothing and blankets and robes and every part of the buffalo. The bones were used for, you know, to eat, like a plate or a bowl or utensils. You know, and wherever the buffalo roamed, there had to be water.
The Comanches knew how to make energy bars out of buffalo meat. They made buffalo meat with the fats and berries. And when they travel, they ate that little, they make it in a little ball. When they travel, that gave them energy to make it to their destination.
So smart.
I saw in another one, we're always about, what do you call these people that preserve for going for later on when you can't handle the
Oh,
food?
right.
What's that book?
Preppers.
Preppers, yeah.
Well, anyway, there's a guy that has the book, and he said the way to preserve meats, the best method was done by the Indians, and it's that pemmican. You put it in the guts, shoot it up in the guts. It's kind of like a ball, but it's in a long thing. And he was just going to teach. He shows how you do it in that book.
I need that book.
I know, and it's so you can buy it. A lot of people buy it. All those people that thinking we're not going to go to heaven, we're going to stay on earth.
Oh, right.
Anyway, I'm ready.
Well, Ardith, I just realized when I was asking y'all what you wanted for snacks when you came over today, you had thrown out bison jerky, and I was like, oh, so I went to Walmart and was looking for. There isn't any.
She makes it. Oh, yeah, she makes it.
That's usually the most unhealthiest. They get it preservatives to put it in that little sack,
The
but
stuff you make is probably amazing.
well, my husband painted over a teepee pole way up high and in the hot sun, and that's really the best.
I just laugh. My kids are laughing when I tell them what I did, and I say, yeah, your grandma's got this big PhD. But can you imagine her going out there sitting in the yard with Grandma Aha and blowing up guts? Put that to your lips and blow. She made me blow up these guts. Maybe about that long. Tie one in and we blow it up. And it'd be like one of those oblong balloons, blow it up. And then you tie it on that end. And then you salt it. Put a paper clip on it or a pin and hang it on the clothesline. And it dry out. Oh, that was the best. What do you call them now? You can buy them.
Sausage?
No, crackers. They're in the sack. Kind of like chips.
Oh.
What do you?
Nacho chips?
No, it's not nacho. It's real light. It's real
Like
pork skins.
Oh,
Pork
yeah.
skins. Best pork skins. Next time I didn't even mind doing it. I just did it. I did everything. I was the oldest, so I had to do everything.
It's the plight of the oldest.
We'll be back after this quick break. Y'all, I have to show you my new favorite soap from Baker's Bar Soapery. Check out this Yunish, which means buffalo in Choctaw. It's scented with leather fragrance, so I bought one for my husband and one for me too, of course, and it smells so good. This soap is a tribute to the Choctaw and the resilience of the buffalo. Luxury soaps, lotions, and lip balms from Baker's Bar Soapery are 100% Choctaw crafted. And yes, these are made with goat's milk, so they leave your skin feeling soft and supple. So load up on these Choctaw soaps made by Tiffany at Baker's Bar Soapery at thebbsoapery.com. But be sure to get 20% off when you use the code NATIVECHOCTAW, that's all caps, when you spend $25 or more. Treat yourself to the luxury your skin deserves with Baker's Bar Soapery.
So Nadawa was brought back to her family and begged someone to take her back to her Comanche family, even promising wives and horses, but the request was declined. And then Quanah never saw his mother again. And he was only like 15 when she was taken from the Comanche and back to her original family, correct? Is that what you all understand?
I know he was a teenager and he wasn't present when they recaptured her.
I wondered why he didn't go with her. So it sounds like the timing, he was just off.
He was
gone.
No, he was gone hunting or on a war party with his dad.
So he just came back and she was
gone.
And he never saw her.
So sad. But then her daughter, though, was also with her when she left, right?
Yeah.
To go back
She
to her
was a little
family.
baby.
Oh.
When they captured her, she had the baby on horseback and Texas Rangers subdued her, and only thing she could say was Shitzian, like Shitzian. He could tell she looked, just not real Indian, and
Right.
found out later it was Shitzian Parker.
Wow.
But when they captured her, she was described as looking like she was strongly built,
Right.
and healthy, and so I
Like
could
those
imagine.
hefty Comanche women.
Yeah, so I could imagine her finding tanning hides and putting up a teepee wasn't that hard.
And chopping wood. They said
Yeah.
she chopped wood a lot for her uncles.
Really? Oh my goodness.
She could chop wood.
She's like, let me outside and I'll help her
I'll
out
be
in the
all
house.
fine. I'll be
She
fine.
wasn't happy being back with her family, right? That's fairly sad. Tell us about the song from the 1800s that your mother used to sing, and it reminded you of what Juana's mother used to sing, correct?
Where's my boy tonight?
It was just a lullaby.
Yeah,
Okay.
just a
With
lullaby.
a church song
Uh-huh.
or fieldy song.
Mhm.
So
You know, they sing a lot of songs for different things. The song goes like this. Hakiana tua natamamakan, Hakiana kichi, Asuana ta, Aina sukan, Hakiana yuyatu, Jesus ta iaitun, Jesus ta iaitun, Asuana ta, Aina sukan, Hakiana.
Oh, I love that.
Brother, tell them what it means, basically.
Where's my son? Where's my son? Wherever he's at, Jesus, please bless him. Wherever my son is, please take care of him. Wherever my son is, bless him.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a good
That's what she
song.
was saying. It was just a
lullaby.
lullaby. Yeah.
I was able to find the song Where Is My Boy Tonight? It was written by Reverend Robert Lowry in 1878. And as Don said, it was originally a hymn. So you may also know Robert Lowry's song, Shall We Gather at the River? I definitely remember singing that one. Here are the words of the hymn, and I've shortened it by taking out the repeats. Where is my wandering boy tonight? The boy of my tenderest care, the boy that wants my joy and light, the child of my love and prayer. Oh, where is my boy tonight? My heart overflows, for I love him, he knows. Oh, where is my boy tonight? Once he was pure as morning dew, as he knelt at his mother's knee. No face was as bright, no heart more true, and none was so sweet as he. Oh, could I see you now, my boy, as fair as in olden time, when prattle and smile made home a joy, and life was a merry chime. Go for my wandering boy tonight. Go, search for him where you will, but bring him to me with all his blight, and tell him I love him still. I have to admit, this was really hard to get through. The words are already bittersweet on their own, but thinking of them in the context of Cynthia Ann makes it even more haunting. She was taken from the Comanche, never to see Quanah again. And of course, as we all know, a mother's heart like hers would have mourned him for the rest of her life. Robert Lowry was born in 1826 and passed in 1899. I found this beautiful version of the song, which was renamed Where Is My Wandering Boy Tonight? This version was sung by the opera singer Louise Homer, who was born in 1871. I couldn't help but go down a rabbit hole on this song, the composer, and about Louise, especially since I used to sing opera. Interesting fact, Louise's nephew was the famous composer Samuel Barber, for those of you who may be Samuel Barber fans. It's interesting that she would sing this piece, which you'll hear in a moment, because her father, William Trimble Beatty, was a Presbyterian minister. So it makes sense that she would record this hymn. In fact, William Beatty founded Pennsylvania Female College, which is now known as Chatham University. Her father was actually concerned about her singing opera because he felt her gift of singing should be meant for the church. But she convinced him that she would use her vocal talent outside of the church without being in sin. She had a very successful opera career and passed away in 1947. Here she is in 1878 singing, Where is My Wandering Boy Tonight? As you listen to this, you can imagine Cynthia Ann singing this same tune about her son, Quanah Parker, whom she loved and missed so much.
My
Hakiana tua nakamamakan. Hakiana tici. Asuanata eine sukat. Hakiana yuyatu. Jesus ta iaitun. Jesus ta iaitun. Asuanata eine sukat.
Stay tuned for part 6 of this series.
Thanks for listening to Native Chalk Talk. Be sure to join our community on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and check us out at nativechalktalk.com. Stay tuned for the next episode. You're going to love it. Yakoki. Thank you, my friends.